Hey guys, how's it going? So now that Gayatri has talked to all of you about cleaning data, the cleaning data set and obtaining the Southwest data set, I'm going to be focusing more on developing your narrative, storytelling, and how you should go about doing that, right? So now that we have the Southwest data set and have filtered it only to the 2019 year, uh, one thing you'd want to do is first of all understand your data, right? Um, I think before you reach any conclusion about your data, it's important to perform EDA, which is exploratory data analysis, and really get your hands dirty with the data. This process might help you spot trends in your data or help you spot interesting things. And I think it's really important for any data scientist to first get their hands messy on data before coming up with a hypothesis or before coming up with some sort of narrative that they want to sort of push. Um, for instance, many times if you're in a company, right, and you have like um, a hypothesis which you want to generate, you should do so by looking at your data and coming up with a hypothesis. So therefore, I've come up with sort of three things to keep in mind. Number one is understand your data. So that can be done through EDA and just getting your hands dirty, playing around the tables, and using visualizations to understand your data better, etc. Second one is develop your narrative. What this means is develop a perspective about the data, right? What is the data trying to tell you? So you try to understand that and try to develop your own thought process about the data. And third, and finally, is to support your narrative using evidence. So this evidence can be in the form of visualizations, or it can be in the form of sort of detailed write-ups based on statistics. But it's important that you actually use evidence from your data, so that you can substantially back your narrative. And if someone asks you a question to you about it, you at least have some sort of backing for it, right? So anyways, without further ado, we're going to move on to sort of working on this data set. So this is our Southwest data set, and we can see the first 5 entries. Um, Now, something that we might want to sort of understand is how many areas do we have in the southwest part of LA, right? So to do that, to find the number of areas, it's pretty straightforward in that you just group by the area name and you find the size, right? So all of these commands are very easily sort of readable online on the internet. You can find out more about how to manipulate pandas data frames. So if something doesn't stand out or something like doesn't easily come to you right now, don't worry about it at all, because a lot of these things come with practice. And once you see the general workflow and once you see this multiple times, I'm sure it'll become second nature. So you can group by the area name, and we see that there are 69 particular areas in the southwest part of LA. The next thing that you want to do is just convert it into a standard datetime format. So there's something called PD to datetime, which essentially means pandas to datetime, and it converts our date reported column into a standard datetime format, and it stores it in the Southwest date reported column, right? So now another thing we might want to understand is the different types of crimes committed, right, in the southwest part of LA. So in order to do that, you can see the code below, which allows us to essentially generate value counts. That is, for different types of crimes, you generate the number of times that the crime has occurred. And essentially, it's a frequency that we're generating. So we do that by grouping the Southwest table by the crimes committed descending column, and then take its size, then take the top 25 elements, and finally sort by passing in the argument of ascending being false in order to get a descending table, right? So now we get a value count, which shows us that the topmost crime is sexual penetration with foreign object, right? Where you have 22 such entries. And thus you can see how sort of uh, crime has been committed in the southwest part of LA, and you can see the different types, right? Another thing which we might want to do now, in order to sort of get a visual understanding of this is to plot it. Uh, since all of these are categorical variables, one sort of plot which is extremely useful is the bar plot, as we've talked about before. And it's essentially the same code, but you just add another sort of dot plot and you say kind equal to bar. So that very easily allows you um, to essentially have a bar plot. Again, you can see the same thing visually represented now. It's a lot easier to sort of understand the data in this case when you visually represent um, the types of crimes committed. Next, something that you might want to do is filter between the months of 2019. So in this case, I've just sort of, again, filtered the data frame between 1st of January and the 12th, or sorry, the 28th of December. So in this case, it's already sort of done since we've only operated on the 2019 data, so we don't necessarily need to do it. Uh, but you can see in the future, you might want to say, for instance, isolate your data to say only the summer months, like the code present here, where I have filtered the data from the 1st of April to the 1st of July. Say I want to get data specifically for the summer months. And that's what I've tried to do. So after having filtered for the date, I essentially aggregate this by the size function, which is extremely useful for getting counts. And then I try to display the top 25 elements. But in this case, we don't have 25 elements, therefore it just displays the top 6. So this is the April to July data frame, where you can see that where you can see sort of the distribution of crimes committed, which is a subset of the larger distribution. Another thing now which we might want to see from this data, which might help us understand the data better and help us develop our narrative, is which time of the year has the most frequently occurring crimes, right? When does crime occur most frequently? So in order to do that, we could essentially have like a line plot. So line plots are extremely useful if we want to represent numerical variables, especially given time series data. In this case, since we are trying to represent the date reported on the x-axis and trying to represent a sort of a frequency on the y-axis, we can sort of plot the most frequently occurring time for crimes. So you again group by the date reported, you take its size in order to get value counts. Then you sort values again by descending, and then again you take the top 30 elements. So that's pretty standard, and I've created a temporary data frame for that. And after that, I have essentially plotted with the x-axis title being, or with the title of the data of the plot being number of arrests by date, and I have set the x label as date and the y label as number of arrests, and I plotted it. And from this, we understand that most of the crimes seem to occur somewhere, between sort of May and June. So clearly, we can see that the crimes seem to occur in the summer months. And so a long time ago, when my friend worked on a similar data set for the year 2015, I believe, he found that most of the crimes seem to occur again during periods of holidays when students of USC weren't at school. So I think this is in line with his hypothesis, in that majority of crime occurs when students are not at school. So as for reasons why this may occur, I'm not entirely certain, but it could have to do with the fact that there are not too many people in the area, therefore it's easier to commit crimes. So hence, we could potentially draw a conclusion that summer months are more conducive for crimes to occur. And as a result, we could issue recommendations to the LAPD on when they should increase their staff uh, in order to prevent crime. So with that, we come to the end of this particular case study. Hope you sort of learned about developing your narrative and then using evidence to draw a hypothesis at the end of it. Thank you so much. See ya.